Okay. All right. I'm not choking. I can hear out of one ear and I can breathe through one nostril. I'm good. Let's do this thing. You are keeping this in.
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of three opinionated guys with mics and too much free time. Strong enough to stop a speeding movie rumor, more powerful than a bad comic book event, able to waste hours of time asking stupid questions to people who have better things to do. It's Dave, Ben, and John. It's Superhero Speak.
Hey everyone, you're listening to Superhero Speak, and I'm your host Dave.
And Ben.
Dying. I mean, John. Why did you put that in my contract?
That you had to die?
Not allowed to take sick days, apparently. So
you get paid the same for a sick day as a regular.
Right.
You bastard.
So what are we here to talk about tonight, Dave?
We're here to talk about something that happened not a long time ago, but this past weekend. And not far away, but at a local movie theater.
So we're talking about when I got handsy with the person in the seat next to me.
No, they can't prove that. There was no witness except for your wife.
She enjoyed it.
Of course, we're here to talk about Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Wait, I thought you meant Pets. Oh, man, did I see the wrong movie again? Always happens.
Tomato.
So before we start, as always, spoilers.
Yeah.
But actually, why don't we do something a little different this time, guys?
You mean be good?
Well, yeah. Let's spend a couple minutes going around the table, give a brief reaction to the movie that's spoiler-free. Let's try that.
Okay.
Let's start with John.
Spoiler-free?
Yes.
I have to remember what was in the freaking...
Just high level.
High level? Okay. High level. This is the story of how that disc with the information about the Death Star plans got into Leia's hands. What happened to everybody involved in that job. It was a job. It was Ocean's 13 or something.
Yes.
In space.
Many Bothans died. No, wait, that's a different...
That was I looked that up because I quoted that too a couple of days ago, and then I realized I was wrong because that was from Return of the Jedi. But yeah. So many everybody. Well. Anyway, so yeah, that's the story.
Okay.
Right.
I saw it a little differently, John. See, I thought here's a story. A lovely lady.
I knew you were going to say that. Don't do that. I'm going to choke again.
On the mission of hope.
I'm so healthy. Go ahead.
And I thought, I thought this movie had one job to do, which was to basically fill in that gap, to answer the question of how, those plans got to Leia. And I think that it did it came up with a fairly compelling story, because you could say to yourself, it's like, is this really an interesting subject matter? And I think they made it that way. I think they really filled in, the open questions there, and even created new questions that we didn't know we had, and answered those as well.
Yes, apparently UPS was a lot more dangerous back then and over there.
Right. And what was interesting is, like, as much as this has been, this is Star Wars after all. There was definitely a lot more pronounced warfare in this movie, I think, than there were in a lot of the other Star Wars movies. I mean, you got some in the beginning of Empire. You had some at the in a couple of the prequels, but there was very little classic warfare until. But this hit on it pretty solidly.
This was like Saving Private Ryan levels of warfare.
Yeah, it was. It was nearly there, and it was gritty, and they had to deal with real problems. I mean, they had real geek problems too. How to upload and transfer a very big file without getting too deep into the weeds. So. Oh yeah, my first impressions were I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good story and it was a good ride, and everyone should see it.
All right. Let's just say I walked out of the theater wanting to run home and watch episode 4, and I dare anyone who watches me not to feel that. Yeah, I thought it was good. I would put it up.
High praise.
And yeah, I enjoyed it. And that's as much as I could say without really spoiling anything. So
yeah.
At this point,
this one makes you want to go see episode 4 as opposed to episode 3, which makes you want to run away and hide your head.
Exactly. So at this point, everyone who's listening, if you haven't watched the movie yet, stop. If you don't want to be spoiled, go see the movie, come back. Or if you don't care, then go spoilers. All right, that's our legal obligation. We're ready to go.
So let's dig into this puppy.
Many body bags were filled in getting this information.
This is true. And that's an interesting point. So yeah, a lot of people died, but the use of the Death Star in this movie was interesting. I thought that because they used it in a way that we didn't see previously. Like there was always a planet killer. They went with the full power every time they used it in the past. But here they showed that it could actually be more surgical and take out just a city if they wanted to.
Yeah, they showed that that the Empire could be restrained and only kill a couple of 100,000 people. Just nicely.
Right. Well,
with pinpoint accuracy.
Although, to be fair, their motives were not because they were trying to be nice. Their motives were to keep under the radar.
Right.
Yeah. What was it that the line was? We need a statement, not a manifesto.
Yeah.
Right. Which I don't know how you keep secret if you.
Well, if you've destroyed an entire city, there's literally nobody left to see what happened.
Right. They destroyed their cities on fairly unpopulated planets. So, yeah, there's not a lot of people to go running around saying, hey, look what just happened.
Right. And let's clarify when you say pinpoint accuracy. And it was like dropping a giant atomic bomb on a city.
Yeah, there was...
Actually, you know what it looked like? It looked like we now have an explanation for the super weapon from Independence Day. It did the exact same thing. It hit and it just didn't explode. It just kept rolling out from point zero.
Well, that's also how atom bombs work too. That they can blow out in a very large radius, and it doesn't happen automatically all at once.
Yeah, but they don't go 1,000 miles out.
Not the ones we've used. No, I think we're smarter than that.
Yeah,
generally. Well, they also tied the power source of the Death Star to the Jedi, to the what do you call them?
Kyber crystals.
Kyber crystals.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually thought that was a very interesting thing to do. Like one of the things really to point out is they did a great job of picking some of the stuff from the expanded universe, which a lot of it's canon, but some of it is things that are been in the comic books and the novels that they never touched on in the and kyber crystals they've talked about in the cartoon and the books and everything, but they never mentioned them in any of the movies until this movie. And now not only did they take that, okay, it powers the lightsaber, it also is what powers the Death Star.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of connective tissue and continuity of things in the canon, they did a lot of other connections in this movie that I found interesting. Besides that, just in some of the characters that we saw, they didn't just span, connecting the prequels to the originals. They also connected, the Clone Wars and the Star Wars Rebels show. And, made references that may hint at a varied version of the Force Unleashed being close to canon.
Yeah, but I just want to add that this wasn't one of those shows where it is completely based on callbacks.
No.
Right. None of it was like hammering you over the head with, look, this is from Star Wars. This is from Star Wars. Look, we reference back to this. Aren't you? Isn't this cool?
You mean like episode 1?
Yeah, that could be one. Yeah, sure, yeah, right.
So,
but yeah, it was very subtle. It was very the writers on this This is like the Deadpool writers. It was they were the unsung heroes of this.
And one of the things they did with this that I don't think the average person realizes, number one, they took inspiration from concept drawings from the original trilogy that were never used. Like Darth Vader's castle. That was a concept drawing. And
I remember that one, yeah.
They were going to have a Darth Vader castle, but they never had the time to build the model and the money to do it, so it was cut out of the original trilogy. But now, we finally got to see it.
Also, the Journal of the Wills.
Yes, exactly. Which was the original title of the first.
Part of the original. It had a very long title.
Luke Skywalker and the Journal of the
Luke Starkiller, actually.
Starkiller, that's right. Before he was Skywalker, because that just rolls off the tongue.
It does. There was another reference too. Besides those references to the original storyboards and source material, they actually leveraged cut footage from episode 4, A New Hope. Sorry, with some of the squadrons fighting above the planet at the end.
Yes, the Gold Leader and Red Leader.
Mm-hmm. Right, so that was actual footage from A New Hope that didn't get used in the movie.
But they killed Red 5 off, which made way for Luke to become Red 5 in New Hope.
I think we're dancing around something here that I kind of should think. I want to say straight out. There's actually two main criticisms I've seen.
Here we go. You're going to bring this out, aren't you? You're going to bring this out this early? Really?
Well, no. I think one of the ones we're actually talking about right now is one of the biggest complaints I've seen from different critics and viewers is that it was a Star Wars fan movie. Like, it placated to the fans too much. And
no, really didn't.
I think...
I disagree. Hold on. But go ahead.
Hold on. I was going to say, I don't think I totally agree with that, but at the time, so what? Like... That's who Disney knew was going to go was Star Wars,
Yeah, but let's make no bones about it. It stands on its own, I think.
Yeah, and I think, yes, it was highly referential to a lot of deep canon that only the true Star Wars nerds are going to pick up on. And I was actually surprised at how much I picked up on. But you're not beaten over your head with it. Like, there's plenty of substance there that's new and original, that has nothing to do with that. That is the main driving force of this movie. We haven't even really talked about all of the new original characters they created for this movie that were, had depth and had personalities all to themselves.
And then killed them.
Well, yeah.
Well, and I was about to say, the other main criticism of the movie is that there was no character.
Really?
Yes.
That's kind of. I think that's kind of yes and no.
Well, to reference back to something John said before, it had the level of character development you had in, say, Saving Private Ryan, because you can only develop these characters so much when you're thrusting them into, a situation like this. Like you're limited on time and resources to do that.
You have to learn. Character development isn't just exposition. Character development is also watching the actions that the character takes.
Right. It's not just about what they say.
Gaining insight from that.
Yeah.
And I would also challenge those to say maybe that was kind of done on purpose. Like, I think we got enough character development to understand them by the time we don't. I mean, we care for them, but not that deeply. But we all knew they were going to die. Like,
yeah.
That's
no,
the whole...
we didn't. We didn't all know. We didn't all know. I didn't know. I went in there thinking, "Oh, this is going to end with hope." And
well, it did.
Well, it did.
I will say that I did not go in there necessarily expecting that they would all die because I told you, I think, about a fan theory I'd heard about that I had expected a slightly different twist on the ending that didn't come to pass.
That Jen Erso was Ren's mother?
No, not that. There was a fan theory that was, to summarize, and obviously it turned out not to be true, but based on literature, based on official books that came out around episode 7 that talked more about the Knights of Ren, the characterizations of the Knights of Ren, which was a group of 5 people, line up uncannily to the group of the main 5 in the Rogue One squadron.
Oh, okay.
Like, very uncannily to the extent that it would be easy to say that this one is this guy, and this one is Jen Erso, and this one is Cassian Andor, and this one is Baze Malbus. Like it was really like so close. Like it was easy to say, well, maybe this is it. Like maybe what happens here is these 5, they survive this, get captured, and get brainwashed or converted by Vader to become this small cadre of warriors.
See, now that was in Lucas's cut of it, but he's no longer in charge.
Yeah, well,
I mean, if they kept that version, then all those guys will actually go back in time and make all the parts that make up C-3PO. So
No, I mean, I will say this: I had hopes that it would survive by the end, but
well, you definitely attached to a lot of these characters. Like you wanted to see them make live through the day, but at the same time, I think the story had integrity the way it was written, and I was okay walking out the theater the way it was.
But again, another argument I heard defending them all dying, it explains why none of these characters popped up in 4.
True.
I mean, if they were that integral to the rebellion, they would have been helping out.
Going up more.
Right. So
unless they got brainwashed into becoming dark warriors for Darth Vader.
True. I mean, you could also argue they could have used characters from maybe died in the Death Star trench run. That's the main characters, but
yeah,
we'll never.
So, well, since we're talking about the characters, maybe we should talk about the characters a bit.
Sure. So our main protagonist, Jen Erso, played by Felicity,
yes,
who is the daughter of
Galen Erso,
Galen Erso. Yes, who is a Empire engineer, I guess, scientist, who's responsible for the Death Star. But
right.
when we meet him in the beginning of the movie, he had defected from the Empire, was trying to live a peaceful life on a farm by himself, which we got moisture evaporators,
moisture evaporators, and blue milk,
in that opening.
Yeah.
But of course, the Empire showed up and said, "Nope, we want you to come back and work for us."
Yeah.
And with, under the strictest of terms, come back with us, as in we're gathering up your wife and child and we're taking you and, do it or else.
Yeah.
He really didn't want to go.
And which makes sense. It colors the Empire in an interesting light because it's at a point where, because you have to imagine, this is when Jyn Erso is young. She's, maybe 8 or 9.
Right.
And so it's shortly after the Emperor has taken control. The Senate is still in control. It doesn't seem like there's likely much of a rebellion of significance or volume at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is essentially the galaxy state as it is. So for him to turn against it is
insane.
It's a unusual choice, and I think the way that Ken Krennic handled it probably was atypical for someone in the Imperial Guard at that point in time. He was a little zealous and used methods that I think fell outside of what was necessarily officially sanctioned. So it was interesting to see that unfold.
At least until later. Then that was the official guidelines. It was in the employee handbook.
But I also think, again, that goes against character development developed pretty quick. Jenner, her father, and
and Krennic,
and Krennic. I mean, fairly quick. I mean, Krennic and Galen have a relationship, and that's part of the driving force going on. And him wanting his daughter, so she hides. Like, we're developing motivation right there. We're developing relationships. Like, so people arguing want just a lot of exposition. The CW.
Wait, that's less character development.
No, please.
No, but a lot of
it's forced character. It's forced character development. It's that old adage: show, don't tell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, even Cassian, they spent in small moments time giving you a picture of who he was as a person without him having to say a lot about it. Like how he handled that that other rebel guy in that alleyway when the stormtroopers were approaching early on. Was very much like it showed that like he was committed to this. This was his life, and to the extent that he was willing to take someone out who was a couple shades out of it, if it meant the rebel cause, prevailed.
Yeah, that it was right then and there where I thought to myself, this is the Deep Space Nine of Star Wars. This is the gritty reboot of Star Wars, you know? This is not the everybody lives happily ever after version. This is the everybody gets killed and you've got, choices like he had where, well, all right, I can let this guy go, which would be the right thing to do, or I can shoot him so that he can't snitch on me and I can get away.
This is
even
the
though
he's a good Star Wars.
Yeah, that was when that happened. That was like, oh my God, this isn't Lucas's Star Wars anymore. This is like, shit just got real. He just shot that guy in cold blood just so he could get away.
Yep.
Right. And I think when a description I heard of Unfair, they called him French Han Solo. And it was like, yeah.
Come on.
You guys have to read
He's
the
nothing
negative
like
reviews.
Han Solo, though. Character-wise, he was a very different character than that.
He actually reminded me more of, believe it or not, the James Bond from the novel, where he's cold and calculating. Like, well, let's see. I let this guy go. I get captured. I kill him. I get out and, with my mission. So, like, that's how I picture it.
It's Han Solo without anger management,
Yeah,
Han Solo of Xanax didn't exist. It's like
I see him more like character-wise, he's more like the main character from Burn Notice.
Yeah,
focused and on point, and doesn't mince with things too much.
But not on fleek.
And speaking of characters I didn't want to see go, I really enjoyed K2SO as a character.
Oh, was that the voice of K2SO? That was, what's his name? Alan Tudyk. Again.
Alan Tudyk, yep.
Oh my God, I love that guy. Everything.
First of all, yes, he is great in everything, and that character was perfect.
They always give him the best lines.
Now here's my issue with that.
Mm-hmm.
If they hadn't destroyed base
Mm-hmm.
with the Death Star,
he could have been repaired.
He's the only character who could have come back, because they have established in the Star Wars robots can be just put back together and they're fine.
Right.
Well, his memory trip is probably flying around in space, and at some point, the Borg will pick it up, and then wrong.
But yeah,
Don't
I think at this point it's
my Star Wars.
Right. I think at this point it's pretty vaporized.
But yeah, no, it was interesting because the robot character in Star Wars that
wasn't a comic relief.
Well, he kind of was, but
was
in a good, in a much grittier way.
Right. Well, yeah, he was comic relief until he picked up a stormtrooper and started laying waste to the rest of them with him, using him as a bludgeon. That was pretty cool. That was what was it? I almost flashed back to Jason picking up the one of the camp counselors in a sleeping bag and then swatting other counselors with them. It's just me. Was it just me?
Oh, Jason as in the horror character.
Yes.
I was like, who is this Jason you're speaking of? The Jason.
Jason David from the Power Rangers. Yeah. No. Jason X. But, it's just, that was, it was pretty badass. A lot of the stuff that they did in this was the war scenes themselves were just, I don't care what they say about the character development. When some of these people died, you were just like shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the pilot was just out of nowhere.
Yeah. And also when Chirrut went down, the blind guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like that was a moment.
He could have been a Jedi.
He could have been. Well, you almost suspected that maybe he was just untrained. Because, look, the things that he did without sight, that requires some level of force manipulation, I think.
Well, that's
it's one thing to hear, like, I'll just give one example. It's one thing to hear the X-Wing, or not the TIE fighter, and be able to judge, where and when to shoot it down. But not only did he shoot it accurately, pinpoint accuracy, but shot it at the right time so that when it crashed, it took out a gunner turret.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, that's something, again, that they talk about in the expanded universe, is that there are people that are force sensitive that never get trained as a Jedi. So they can do things like that, but they don't know how to fully force.
Yeah. They don't have as many midichlorians.
Yeah. Now, I just want to add, one of the writers definitely saw Avatar. And I'm talking the last Airbender Avatar. Because there was a joke when they put the hoods over them to take them away.
Yeah, that was a funny joke.
They put the hood over Chirrut's, and he's like, "Are you kidding me? I'm blind." That was a direct. I swear to you, that is a direct reference to Toph.
Yeah.
In Last Airbender, all the jokes that she did about being blind.
Perhaps, but it's an obvious joke too. At the same time, it may not necessarily have seen Avatar, but it's a possibility.
Still funny as hell.
But speaking of Chirrut, I did hear. So one of the things I've heard some rumblings about, and saying this matter of factly, is that while it isn't addressed expressly, there's some notion that there was a more than friendly relationship between him and Baze.
Oh, watching his back. Oh God.
Not that I obviously have an issue with that, but I didn't read that in there at all. I kind of felt like that was reading something they wanted in the Star Wars.
I get that, really... but the director also addressed it after the fact, saying that he wasn't ruling it out.
Well, he said he doesn't mind if you think that, but he doesn't. Right. He didn't say for matter of factly that's what it was. I mean, it's almost like saying two guys can't be close without them being gay. It's almost a homophobic thought in my mind. It's like, well, wait, why can't they just be really close friends or bosom buddies, as it were?
Yeah.
Sure, they could be, but what's wrong with if they were more than that?
Because I'm telling you right now, if we were on a beach and you got blown up, I would run over and hold your body.
Well, that's because I'm so attracted.
No, because you'd be rolling the body to find if he had any loose change or anything.
That's true. That's true, and I would expect no less. Honestly, I would entirely expect you to do that, because at that point, my cash isn't any good to me.
It's something any Dungeons and Dragons player would do. Damn it. Always roll the body.
But, and again, even if it was the first gay Star Wars couple, now they're both dead, so it doesn't matter.
True. But it establishes a sort of sense that sort of thing can exist in this world. Like, you're talking about a civilization that spans multiple races across multiple planets. Right. You would have to expect that type of relationship would also be equally accepted and not vilified.
You get the feeling that kind of relationship would be the least of the things that people could pick on in that kind of a society, considering you'd have interspecies relationship too.
You're quoting, I think that sounds exactly like the Gareth. He's the director. I'm pretty sure that's exactly it's such a what Ben said. What is such a massive universe? Obviously, it would have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that sentiment.
And it happened on that beach that day.
Well, no, nothing.
That was one of the cutscenes.
They were kind of busy.
Yeah, before things got really kicking up, they got things.
No. It was a little bit. They were busy to get. They were too busy to get busy.
Maybe.
Okay, so before we dig ourselves a hole and bury this podcast in it, why don't we move on?
What's that?
Why don't we move on to something less,
Okay, so we could talk about the plot a little bit in the sense of two things.
One thing I was going to say is, yes, on the point of plot, I found it interesting that they explained the flaw in the Death Star.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
and the fact that it wasn't just a bad design flaw; it was an explicit, purposeful design flaw on the part of Galen Erso to give the rebellion a chance to take this weapon out that he designed. And I liked that. I thought it was an interesting way to go with that.
Right. So all those people who are blaming the guy who designed the exhaust ports on the Death Star for its destruction, you can stop now.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't exactly. You could say it's a retcon, except that it was never really explained. It was just left open.